Hello, everyone, and welcome to this roundtable on flip fashion. Flip fashion is a title that says that we want to turn fashion upside down, and that we oh, sorry, I have an echo. And that we are going to do that in three different ideas: in bioeconomy, in production scenarios, and social ecosystem. This series of flip fashion events is a satellite event of the new European Bauhaus Festival, which is happening in 2024 for not yet for the second year. And together with the Herewear project, which is a European project, and the TCBL Association. Please, next. The new European Bauhaus is a movement that is together with the Green Deal is emphasizing the cultural and the social dimension to move all the European sectors as a whole, not only the textile and clothing, but all the sectors, towards more cultural and more social ideas. And the new European Bauhaus is built on three key values, which are beautiful, sustainable, and together. And these three values have three levels of a maturity. The first level, which is very close to our current paradigms in our existing system. The second level, which is more about transformation and experimentation. And the third level, which is what we imagine could be the future of these three values in the next generation economy. And in the textile and clothing sector, of course, beautiful for us is at all the levels. It ranges from the aesthetics on the first level to the very much being a core value of everything what we are doing. And the sustainability ranges from the preserving the resources on the planet to the idea that we can build a regenerative economy. And together is probably the newest to that, because not only is it built on being equal or favoring equal systems, but it is also working towards, in the future, towards more inclusivity, building social connections that will facilitate the democracy of all our systems. Next, please. These three values are, in fact, very close to the Herewear project that he's nearly he's in his fourth year, which is a Horizon project, which is how to make local, circular, and bio-based textiles. And the connection between the two is that in this project, we explored the possibility to have secondary waste biomass to be transformed into pulp, fiber, and fabrics, which were very beautiful. And we had the demonstration today. These fibers and fabrics being used to make garments, corporate wear, fashion wear, following circular design ideas to be able to make quicker loops and making more loops before recycling them. And all of that being enabled by local communities, which illustrate the togetherness that is linking the consortium partners with all the other SMEs in Europe that can, in real life, make that sector more emergent. And I remind you that 99% of the textile and clothing production sector in Europe is SME. Next, please. TCBL was one of the core members of this initiative because we like to develop communities that are looking for a radical change in the textile and clothing sector, and we have been doing that since 2015, and officially through the TCBL Association since a couple of years. And we we in the Herewear project, we were particularly developing this community building. Next, please. Yesterday, we had the first of the 3 roundtable events on bioregional models, and we had a very inspiring talk from Maria Angela Lavanga, who is also working on the new European Bauhaus movement. Today, we have production scenarios. Next. And our inspiring talk will be from Annick from Fashion Green Hub, that you can see on the screen. She will talk about the local production hub she has been developing for a number of years now. Then we will have a couple of pitches. What we call pitches is like sharing experiences, radical expertise in changing the game. We will have Dieter from the DITF, who will tell us a lot more about the application of the microfactory system to the Herewear project. I don't want to say too much, of course. Then we will have Ravonn from Ravonn Gallery Arts. Ravonn has been developing a fabulous gallery to facilitate the personalized couture of some emerging premium designers, and also using leftovers. So that's quite an achievement. Thank you. We will have Adrian. Adrian is going to tell us a bit more about the systemic view from a city planning perspective to urban relocalization, or in European language, industrial symbiosis. And then we will have Sofia, who is going to, from Moholy Design University, who will tell us, who will expand the project and tell us about her research to transform waste into objects. So, thank you for following us, Annick. Tomorrow we will have the last roundtable on community engagement, and I hope you will be a lot to follow us online at the same time. Please, Annick, the floor is yours.
Hello to all, and thanks Frédérique and the TCBL team for this invitation. I am in very good company, I can see, so I'm happy to share a little bit of what we have done for the past almost 10 years now in France. So 10 years ago, we started a very small NGO, which was located in Roubaix, north of France at the time only, to make the whole system change and make it through collective action. That means we were at the time really sure that the change would not happen if a collective action was not done in between companies, but as well other NGOs or schools or collectivities, cities, region. Everybody had to start working more together. So after 10 years, we are 600 members in this Fashion Green Hub NGO, and encouraging local production or local new activities is part of our mission. We call ourselves a multi-regional association because we are in regions in France, and each region has its community and does what is necessary to the regional ecosystem. So, of course, there is a national association, but who does not do many things. It just coordinates a little bit, does some institutional communication, and that's it. Really, the activity is done, designed in the different French regions. So we can go to the next slide. So yeah, this is me very quickly. I've spent almost all my life in the fashion industry. First at large groups during 25 years, like Printemps, Galeries Lafayette, or L'Oréal, or some more. And at a certain point, I started my own activities to train professionals, write training programs as well, and launching this NGO. I am as well involved in another NGO, which is Association Nationale des Tiers-Lieux. Tiers-Lieux are third places in English. I will explain maybe a bit more what it is just after. So as you can see, I am very much involved in everything which is a collective non-profit and which is aimed at the common good of the fashion industry at large. Next. And I am 62 years not, so with some experience. So yeah, this is a summary of what we are doing as an NGO. We do a lot of events so that people can meet and share and show. Our events are very cheap, so anybody can attend. And we've done many now in different cities in France so that meetings can occur. We believe that small people have to meet bigger people. And so we mix everybody in the same events several times a year. Next. So what I'm going to talk about today is what we do for production. When we started, a lot of young designers came to us saying we have a problem. We want to do French production, but we can't. Because manufacturers are busy, or they deliver what we order to them months late, or it's too expensive, or we don't understand each other's. So there was a problem. So in 2018, we started a small lab for designers in Roubaix, with machines and with people employed, of course, on those machines, and as well people to develop, to industrialize, to help designers to make production happen, and to be able as well to do only what they needed, no more. If they needed 10 pieces, they do 10 pieces. If they need 2 pieces, they do 2 pieces. Because very often there is minimums at factories, and it brings designers to some problems when they have to buy more than what they are able to sell. Then they have stock and they have no money left after a certain time. So we started this small lab in Roubaix, and it was successful immediately because there was a big need. And what we do in this lab called Plateau Fertile, that's the name of the 2 labs we have, one in Roubaix and one in Paris now, which opened almost 2 years ago now, is we give access to machines. There is as well eco-printing facility from Epson, for instance. There is virtual softwares to create your garments immediately with avatars, and to be able to place on fabric, to do everything virtually. So we give access to machines. We train people as well who need. People don't, but people do. So designers can use the machines themselves if they want just to do themselves their own prototypes, or they can have access to technicians or people who help them to do their prototyping. And next to this lab, we work in really close relationships with some small manufacturing units, either in Roubaix or in Paris. So we do the very small series, like 2, 5, 10 piece, but then we give production to other manufacturing units as soon as it goes over this kind of quantities. So we have a very good network now with a lot of manufacturers around us. In Roubaix, there is 50 manufacturing units working as a network as well, and working together, for instance, to reply to public orders, which they cannot do individually because it's too difficult. They don't know how to do it. So we'll help them to reply to the orders, the tenders from the cities, because cities buy textile, uniforms, or other kind of textiles. So we help this network to reply to those tenders. So what we do is, as well, we train, because we could see another problem is that manufacturing units had a lot of problems to hire people. They could not find enough people to stitch. So, and nobody was trained as well on upcycling and dismantling garments. So we created a training session in 4 months for unemployed people, average unemployed for 5 years, means a long time, to train them and find them a job at the end of the training. We don't only train, we train. And then we have this network of manufacturing units around us who take our trainees immediately when they go out. We train as well the designers themselves, because sometimes they are out of business schools, or they have not learned how a garment is manufactured, how to talk to manufacturers. So we help both parties actually to communicate, and that good things happen if they know exactly how to work together. I don't know if the short video can work. It's really short. Can you know the video, which is on the other slide at the bottom? No, it's not working. Anyway, if you have this, you can watch it if you want afterwards. So we can go to the next slide. So those labs we have are really aimed at boosting local production. And the Paris city actually was quite amazed to discover, because we have done a sort of map of production facilities around Paris. They thought there would be maybe 10 manufacturing units or 20, and there is several hundreds. So it helps cities as well to realize suddenly that textile or stitching textile, or manufacturing bags, or manufacturing jewelry, or whatever we wear on ourselves, was actually a much bigger activity than they thought in the beginning. And suddenly cities realize that they have to do something. If there is so many people in the textile industry, they have to do public policies, they have to find money to help people to find to settle, to find space, because space is very scarce in Paris. So then suddenly the city realizes that they have to do something to help all those people. So how do we help production? I said a lot already, I think. And what is key is really we are not a closed microfactory. We really are in cooperation with many, many different other manufacturing units. This is Hawa that you can see on the photo. And she has started just next to us in Paris, really, really close, our neighbor. She has started a manufacturing unit with women with a lot of problems, and she trains them and she hires them. And she takes some of our trainees as well at her place. She employs about more than 50 women, I think, now, and it's growing. And of course, as we have a big network, we help each other as well to explain to large groups like the the luxury groups that they should come and give some work to be done here. Some women at our place have specialized in embroidery, for instance, which is really key for luxury groups because they couldn't find anymore people who were able to do embroidery quite quickly and very good. So this which is interesting, that what we are doing is nurturing the production ecosystem, and they nurture us as well. We nurture each other constantly by these really frequent meetings and talks, and we share a lot with all those micro training units, and all together then we can as well take orders which are big, because of course if someone wants an order of 10,000, it can be shared in between 10 or 20 small manufacturing units. And that's what we would like to do in the future. We are working on distributed production. Means you don't need to be big to do a 10,000 order. You just need to be 10 or 20. And that makes a big difference. Suddenly it's very agile, very reactive. And for brands, it's interesting as well that instead of placing all their orders in advance and having stock, they can find close to them some agility, some new possibilities to do whatever they have to do. And of course, they do a lot of prototyping as well. So sometimes they cannot do all the prototyping inside. It's too long. And everybody is very happy to find some prototyping options, either at Plateau Fertile or at all the network of small manufacturing units around. Is there one more slide or is it finished? I don't remember. Yes, so what we are doing is really aimed now a lot on circular production. Means taking existing stocks and changing them into new things. We as well have a library, which you can see, which is on this wall. And this is available stock of dead stock, which is very often given by members because we have weaving units who are members of Fashion Green Hub, so they give fabrics, and then the designers can come and find really immediately ready fabric that they can use for either nothing or a very low price to do their prototypes or a small production. So we try in those labs to ease the life of the designers and to train them as well, because very often they don't know production a lot or at all. So it's a key point that they know how production is done so that they can as well design accordingly and not ask manufacturers impossible things to do, which will of course come very expensive in the end. Next. Yeah, this is our big ecosystem. So now, after 10 years of work, it's really key for us to have so many brands, large groups. There is a lot of large groups who are members, who try to make more made in France and made in Europe. So we do connections in between the manufacturers and large groups as well. So it's not easy, it takes time, because large groups are no more used to French manufacturing. They are more used to Chinese or Bangladesh manufacturing. So it takes time to all parties to connect and to meet and to talk and to realize what can be done and what can't be done. But with really a good will from all parties, we can see that things are getting better. Even now, some brands tell us, actually, I can't give everything I have to give on the French market because people are busy, so I can't find production space for what I have to do. Of course, nothing is easy. I wouldn't say it's an easy turn. It's not easy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of patience, but with common will from the cities as well, who have to help, we can see that things are getting better. Not fast enough than we would wish, of course, but there is progress all the time. And we can see that the small manufacturing units around Paris, they are quite busy all the time. So maybe they are not doing as much as they wish for some, but things are getting better. And we hope now that all this French production, which is as well employing a lot of people with problems, we wish that this part of the production is now more recognized, of course, that it's considered important by the French government and the regions, more helped, because it gives jobs to people who really need jobs and who are so happy suddenly to do something which is extremely their dream, actually. People come and train themselves, and then their life changes because they have found a dream job which they can be really happy in their life. It changes their life, and actually this is what we are the most proud of, is to this action, to see the faces of people after the training, and when they come back and say, okay, I have a job and I'm so happy. I think this part we have to consider. It's not only about manufacturing these labs, it's about doing some people's life really changing a lot. And this is what we want to increase now and open maybe 1 or 2 more labs on the French territory, and maybe some abroad. We were discussing with Morocco this morning. I mean, maybe there'll be some more, but we do things little by little because we are a small team. We are 15 altogether, so we cannot follow 10 projects at a time. So we try to do things at our capacity and possibility. So yeah, that's the end of it. Now, if you have questions, I'll be happy to reply. Yeah, that's what we plan to do in between now and in 2 years' time. We can't hear you, Frédérique.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think we will have the questions after, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. I kept some notes, and I'm very impressed about your networks and your distributed manufacturing and your proudness, which links the manufacturing to the togetherness that I was explaining at the beginning. So thank you very much. Dieter, please. Can you step in and explain to us what you've been doing in Herewear?
Okay, Frédérique, thank you, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to show a little bit, or to tell what we are doing in Denkendorf textile research, and what I am doing in this context of textile microfactories, and why we are convinced that this concept, this structure, is maybe even a kind of a paradigm of a new production concept for circular and sustainable textiles in small dimensions on demand. In the next slide, you can see where I'm from. First of all, I'm a researcher. I'm a researcher since a couple of years, even decades, in this textile economy. now focusing to circularity and sustainability to make companies, organizations, small ones, big ones, communicate, cooperate, collaborate. And we do it, and I do it on behalf in the context of the DITF, the German Institutes for Textile and Fiber Research, which is a big research institute. And we are not only doing the research in all these fields, coming from the polymer and fiber yarns, fabric making, functionalization to the product, to the technical textile product, to the textile used for interior and outdoor equipment, and also for garments, of course, and fashion and functional garments. We are located in the southern part of Germany, some 300 people all around, all together, because we also have a small production company. And this shows also that we do not only the research, but we also do industrial, small-scale production. And of course, we have all the services for testing also in-house. What is important, as I mentioned it already, that we do have not only have the production the testing and laboratory equipment, but we also do have it in an industrial scale. In the next slide, you can see how we use it, how we transformed it, how we developed the concept of the microfactory. And it is even a little bit more, it's a digital textile microfactory, because the main topic or the main basics is that we make things digital in a virtual world. On the right side, you see that we can start from body scanning, then we can transfer these body scan data and integrate this body scan data digitally into the 3D design tool, the configuration tool. And we have on the most right side, you see very small that we also can virtualize it with augmented reality and virtual reality. And this is on the top. And on the bottom, you see the physical things. So in this case, the core of the microfactory starts with printing on demand, printing only those pattern parts which you really need. And then we go to cutting, we make some automatic handling, gripping with robotics, for example, and then we go to joining, assembly, sewing for the final garment. And here you can see the principle of the digital textile microfactory: stay as long as possible digital, go with some more or less automated information technologies, seamless, connected to the physical production things, not limited only to digital textile printing, but we also transferred into knitting or partly also in the weaving. By this concept, it is very easy to scale up and to be very flexible. To scale up, because if we have digitally all available and we have these small production units which are digitally connected, then we can easily adapt and combine and make bigger groups, make networks of these digital textile microfactories. So this is what is behind the digital textile microfactory. And on the next slide, you see a kind of an application or an implementation of the digital textile microfactory concept. And we used it in the Herewear project. In the Herewear project, the purpose is to take up biomaterials, which are typically waste. And in this case, you see an example, the flexi dress by Vetrena and DITF. And we can also see it here in the back that it has been produced in the last few days. And the idea in Herewear is that we take this bio-waste, the biomaterial is waste, and we transform them step by step into pulp. Then we make some filaments out of it. We texturize the filaments. We knit these filaments into fabrics, into knitted fabrics, and then at the end we make some sewing that we can have the final garment. And for all these production steps, we use the microfactory concept. In this case, partly we use it from a research point of view, but we did it also not only for this example, what you see here, which is based on straw at the very beginning and made by pulp and so on. This is called the flexible. But we also made it for other material, which comes from PLA. And here we used very exactly the microfactory concept. And what I just have here on my body is a polo shirt, which has also been made fully following the microfactory concept, starting in Belgium in a small production unit, then to Germany, then to Portugal, then to Belgium back again for finishing, and then to Portugal back again, but all in very small production units and in a very quick time. And this is the concept of the microfactory which has been applied. In the next slide, you may see that we do not only do the production and improve the production with the microfactory concept, but we also assess and evaluate, in this case, the sustainability, the product carbon footprint for a polo shirt. As this polo shirt, what I just have here, is very new. We do not have the result fully available of this product carbon footprint for this polo shirt, but it is very similar, and you may recognize that for such a polo shirt, some 2.6 kilogram of CO2 equivalent might be needed. And this we do also complementary with the microfactory concept in a sense of a digital twinning. And this is important for the future to say, okay, we can produce on demand in small series with the microfactory concept, and we can also reduce the product carbon footprint by using this one. And this can be proved by this method, which we developed from the DITF and which can be applied for many textile and garment applications. So finally, in the next slide, just to give you a kind of what is next, what can happen, what should happen. We from Denkendorf have developed the concept. It is available. We guide you. We guide you to the conception of the microfactory. And if you plan to make it on your own, you can ask us, or our partners can make some small series based on the microfactory concept for you. And we can also, let's say, make some calculation of the PCF of the product carbon footprint using our method, based on the material flow cost accounting method. And just to invite you or to inform you, you can see a fully running digital textile microfactory in end of May in the printing exhibition fair called Drupa in Düsseldorf, and we will also show the results of the Herewear project with the bio-based material using the microfactory concept in Berlin and in Milan. So in case, please ask us. We are available to support you for adapting the concept, changing the concept, and maybe even making some products. And on the next slide, or on the last slide, that it only remains for me to say thank you.
Thank you very much, Dieter. You forgot to mention that the flexi dress was winning the first prize in the Drupa contest. So we are very proud, and you should be very proud of that. Okay.
So I may add that the flexi dress is a real work of the complete Herewear consortium. Yeah. And it took 3 years' time, and so we are all very proud of it, to be frank.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. I would give the floor now to Ravonn to talk about her experience, recent experience. To you, Ravonn.
To invite me. Well, Ravonn Gallery, it's a new concept of the boutique, of the retail, in fact. My missions is to promote independent contemporary creations and to make the conversation between the clothes and jewelry, design, and sculpture photography. Next slide, please. Ravonn Gallery was established in 2021. After 19 years in finance, I decided to open a fashion boutique in the 2nd arrondissement, next in the National Library of France, to promote contemporary and independent creation in 2017, because this is a real passion about the fashion. And I think it was very important for me to make a job in adequation with my my passions. So with the COVID pandemic, I left the location to find another space that will correspond to my desire to rehabilitate artisanal work and garment tailoring in the face of fashion industrialization, the excess of clothing disembodied from the one who created it. So Ravonn Gallery is a response to these alternative visions of luxury, giving prominence to independent creation and craftsmanship in contrast to fast fashion and major luxury groups. Next slide, please. So the difficulties for the independent couture designers, it's to because of course they need to produce, but how to sell, and how to find the shop or the boutique to promote their work, because the market is very challenging, and the multi-brands boutiques very difficult to find the financial solutions. So I think so that this is my experience. I'm moving away from the industrial visions, involves breaking away from the collection logic towards an approach to authors' clothing centered around its signature pieces. Consequently, these are unique pieces with production on demand based on remaining stocks. The couture designer takes the client's measurement and creates a unique garment from their signature pieces. By presenting the work of garment designer as an artist in art gallery, I invite the customers to view it as if discovering a work of art. Thus, they are more likely to accept the creative and exclusive nature of the piece produced. Because when I have the boutique, I noticed that it's very difficult to convince a client to buy the emerging designers, because the price is the pricing is a real is the key difficulties for to find the break point for the business for the young designers or emerging brands. So it's very important to convince the customers that that's the unique pieces. It's more emotions, and so that's why it's for me it's very important to present their work in the art gallery. So garment perceived as a work of art is the only way to evoke emotion, as it resonates between the creator and oneself. Next slide, please. So Made in Paris has sustainable solutions, because all the artists, designers in my gallery align with the creation of unique pieces using leftover stocks and repurposing recycled garment or accessories. So their workshops are located in Paris, hence ensuring a short supply chain. For example, Jérôme Blin is a couturier and visual artist, creates unique color adornment, employing a hot color texture technique on tweed sources from the Parisian region. Raphaël Trabond, another couturier designer, repurposes upholstery fabric for an asymmetrical skirt. He personally dyes cotton canvas for skirts and trousers, for example. He transformed a Chinese work jacket, giving it new life by restructuring and embroidery it by hand. Next slide, please. So Ravonn Gallery is a grassroots actor with the philosophy of the new European Bauhaus. My gallery revolves around beauty and enchantment. All creations contribute to this movement. Beauty as a universal value of elevation, transcendence, and not cynicism. It is not about aesthetic codes, because that vary across cultures and areas. Therefore, one can create beauty while being eco-responsible. Beyond a moralizing discourse, it is important to show that choosing a sustainable mode of production also serve beauty, creating garments and objects that evoke desire and emotions. In fashion, major luxury houses take two directions. Those that focus on extravagant shows and those that place the garment at the center of the activities in a constant pursuit of creativity and construction. Fabric, garment as the medium of the couture designer. Production of unique pieces thus aligns with this logic. Next slide, please. So in conclusions, rehabilitating artisanal work, craftsmanship, and manual skill therefore involves giving meaning to garments and participating in a virtuous, environmentally respectful ecosystem. Fashion reflects our society. It serves as a conduct for dreams and emotions. While images may dominate, nothing can replace the emotions of a creation made by the hands of the artisan, creator, the artist. Certainly, the weight of actors in the embodied, highly polishing, and digitized fashion industry is significant, but it leaves room for innovative personal initiative of those who are on the ground, offering another alternative, a source of inspiration, emotion, generating authentic connection and human resonance. And my gallery, in fact, this is a personal initiative compared to the other big companies. So thank you.
Thank you, Ravonn. Thank you for giving us a feel of this bubble of emotion and personalized couture. Thank you for your experience.
Thank you, Frédérique.
Next is Adrian. Adrian, will you
Hello there.
About urban cities?
I'll do my best. Thank you, Frédérique. Yes, thanks for the inviting me to speak. You have someone with an urbanism background talking fashion, so I'll do my best to explain, or rather present my case in tangible terms. So this presentation is called The Curse or the Cure of the Local, and I'm speaking actually to present a project which has just started called the Fabrics Project, which in fact a number of the speakers during the 3 sessions of the since yesterday and tomorrow actually also part of. And I'll be explaining a little bit about where that comes from, where we're heading to. Good, I'll jump to the next slide. So I have a background in design. I'm a generalist designer. I've worked in a range of different types of design, from graphics to urbanism to landscape, spatial, even systemic design. And service design. I'm originally Australian, but I've been living in Belgium for the last 12 years and I've become Belgian. I'm very interested in process management, not necessarily the outcomes, but actually how we get to good outcomes. And I've developed a great interest in local production, so everything associated with the manufacturing circular economy and how that is anchored in space. I've been a part of a couple of projects, such as I launched a project called the Cities of Making, which is about urban manufacturing. I've been involved with a project on urban economy called MISTA, which is financed through OSMOS, and I'm regularly involved in projects as a facilitator of process design. Good, next slide. Now, my organization is called OSMOS. Now, the focus of our organization is about change. We guide in change, and we work in a range of different areas. It's not just about local production, but we're also interested in ecology, food, public space, and a range of different other topics. Good, next slide. So, I'll probably be raising the obvious in a crowd that knows far too much about the problems with the textile and clothing sector. I don't want to repeat and bore you any further about things that you already know, but of course we know about the externalities, the labor situations, the cost, the environmental costs of processing the fabric itself, but also the costs of the waste of garments. We know that garments are used actually very, very rarely. And the incredible emissions costs, the 10% apparently of global emissions, which comes from the sector. It's absolutely daunting. You know all this, but where it becomes interesting is actually the shift that's happening recently, which you can see in the middle of this image cloud, The Economist, which is very concerned about the fact that globalization is starting to break down. And this could actually be a very interesting motivator to start thinking at a different scale, thinking less at how our global system, where we can have factories on the other side of the world, or in fact, virtually anywhere, to starting to think, okay, maybe we need to be very concerned about where things come from so that we can start to help the production process. We've heard a couple of presentations about how local economies and knowledge networks are very important. And this could be a very strong motivator. But there's more to that than just the economy. We, of course, have new technology, which is starting to help us get a better understanding of what actually clothing could mean, the virtual, and that's not only in terms of the consumer, but it's also in the production process. We've heard that from Dieter's and Annick's presentation. But we also have a trend, a tendency, as you can see here with a company like Ascot, and there are many others, that have really picked up on a niche, which is people want quality clothing, and they are very concerned about where it comes from. And in Ascot's case, it's produced in Portugal with and they're pushing towards organic cotton. And so these values are starting to really pick up. I can't say what that looks like in terms of the overall consumption of garments, but we can see that that's becoming quite a motivator for change. So these are all opportunities, but if we jump to the next slide, if I try to be provocative, I could say and this is the motivation behind the Fabrics project, we can guide a transition towards a greener, more resilient, inclusive, and democratic textile and clothing sector. Yes, we can. Okay, so perhaps that's a dream. And we can do so by combining digital and regenerative industrial technologies with a more human-centered approach. Okay, so this is a bit of a proposal which frames the Fabrics project. Now, what does that actually mean in practice? I'm going to present some very simple concepts, but actually they're really hard to develop. And we're talking about the local economy here. So if we jump to the next slide, how is production? What is the production value chain? This is a very generic scheme, but it's going to help me to discuss how production, which in many cases is very abstract in terms of how the production process is done, just like what Dieter presented for a garment which was jumping between Belgium and Portugal and perhaps other places. In terms of the spatial dimension, it's very interesting to see how different parts of the production chain are situated within urban areas, so that we can start to think about how space and production can come together. This is especially critical when we're talking about urban planning, which has absolutely no concept of production processes, especially processes which are so complex as clothing and textiles. So the first step, if we jump on the next slide, is about research and development. And you've seen what Dieter just mentioned in terms of understanding the actual qualities of the fabric itself. We have the next step, which is design, where Annick was actually talking about, next slide, the actual design of the garment itself, taking the material and then transforming into something people could wear or use. The next step is about the production-related services. It's taking that design and then finding a way to put that into a production process. This is, Annick mentioned that in her microfactory, some of these steps might actually be outsourced before they actually get to the microfactory. And then if we jump to the next step, we have product-related services. So product-related services in this case is an example of Vinted, which is about how you can essentially resell your garment so that you can extend the life of this garment. But there's a range of different product-related services which can be associated with clothing. In the future, we might be thinking of clothing as also a resource that can be reused, which could actually be where the value could be reclaimed. If we jump to the next, we have sales and marketing. We could be thinking about sales and marketing as an advertising company, but it could also be embedded within the company itself in terms of how that garment is sold itself. Then we have logistics and distribution. Logistics and distribution, and this is an example from Rotterdam, where a company is sorting used clothing to be able to reuse or resell. Then the final step, and this is actually what a lot of people think about production and manufacturing, it's just about actually producing things itself. And in the textile and clothing sector, you have an incredible range of different typologies of spaces, from very artisanal, small scale, and as Annick was saying, you have examples, for instance, in Paris, where there's still an incredible amount of production happening, and in the city centre, especially around leather. But a lot of people think that production is just this, but in fact, production actually is many different steps. And if we look to the next slide, we can think about that in terms of a city, and many of these steps, if we jump to the next slide. So for instance, in those activities which are closest to the city, you probably have a lot of design happening very close to the urban centre. If we jump to the next. Outside of the urban centre, you might see research and development, like at a university, or you might have production-related services like engineering or prototyping, for instance. And then final slide, you might have larger production facilities and this is an exception for clothing and textile, because sometimes you have very small scale production, where and especially logistics and distribution, where you need a lot of space, is happening on the outside of the city. So if we think about the production process from this perspective, we can start to see how space is linked to how these certain activities occur. And then we can start to think, okay, perhaps we can think of opportunities where we could start to create centralities, where you might create these ecosystems where research and development, design, production-related services, sales and marketing, logistics and production all happen at the same space. And for the textile and clothing sector, sometimes that's absolutely critical that you have some of these activities very close to each other, while in other cases, as Dieter was explaining, perhaps you can have specialist activities happening very far away. Good. If we jump to the next slide. And again. So great. Yeah, we could think about that as a utopic concept, but there is a challenge. There's a challenge to actually make this happen. There's a problem with the fact that there's little granular knowledge of how production systems actually work. A lot of companies are very protective of their data, and so therefore, for urban planners, it's very hard to understand actually how this works. There's a big distinction about actually how production works and how cities and territories are actually planned. And in many cases, this is forcing production out of cities, which is very problematic. So there's very little natural industrial symbiosis, the relationship between different companies, interdependency. So where the waste of one can be the resource of another. There are sometimes costs of the circular economy that cannot be taken up, for instance. So if we're talking about the circular economy, like managing the waste, processing can actually be a cost, and it's very hard to recover, to find a business model which is attached to that. So sometimes it might be the public sector which has to actually intervene and finance some of these steps to make these systems more circular. And then, of course, the role of the public sector is very unclear. You know, like, how does that play? And in the clothing and textile sector, in general, it's been associated with research and development, but actually, it could be playing a much stronger role. So if we jump to the next slide, an example of that is this organization called the Vienna Business Districts, which is a semi-public organization in Vienna, which is developed to stimulate the interaction between businesses and place. It's about creating production close to the city so that those kind of activities can be valued through the urban ecology, the full urban economy can be valued. If we jump to the next slide, and I'll finish with this. The objective of the Fabrics project is, in fact, to find a way to be able to link the production process with through facilitators of some kind, through a platform which we're developing called the Mantle. And the Mantle is about creating this interface, helping the public sector understand the complexities of the production processes so that they can be encouraged to help the production process as much as possible. The project is a 3-year Horizon Europe funded project within the NEB, New European Bauhaus framework, with 9 partners from 4 countries. And it's, of course, focusing on the textile and clothing sector. And we've got 2 case study cities, which are not necessarily the most typical for production or management of clothing and textiles, which is Athens and Rotterdam. But in fact, if you start looking into the fine details, you start to see there's a lot of richness and the activities happening in these cities. I'll finish on that. I think that's my last slide. If we can jump to the next, if you're interested in getting in touch, with great pleasure.
Thank you very much, Adrian. It is always a pleasure to listen to you talking about the complexity of the process. And you're right, we are forgetting a lot of pieces, a lot of steps. And particularly, we not only have to convince the people who are doing things in the value chains, but also outsiders like policymakers, publics, urban cities, and things like that. So thank you very much for that. The last speaker will be Sophie.
Yeah, thank you. Hello. I was in a textile museum in Augsburg, Germany, where they played a short film from the 60s where women started loving nylon hosiery. The most interesting part of the film was where they showed how durable this innovative nylon polymer is by towing cars and trucks with it. Next. Hello everyone, I am ZSofia Antaloczy from Hungary and I am 25 years old. And I currently study as a master industrial designer in Moholy Nagy Art and Design University. And I'm doing my master thesis on repurposing nylon production waste. I also work as a workshop manager in Hungarian clothing brand called Tomcsányi, which gives me perspective of the problems managing textile waste during production. I also work closely with Mome's Innovation Center on this project. Next. 2 or 3 years ago, I examined the Hungarian hosiery factory and I wanted to know more about their production waste management. I focused on pre-consumer waste as that's still clean and free of all chemicals. Pre-consumer waste does not have to be separated and we can repurpose it as it gets out of production. Actually, production waste in general is much easier to manage and reuse than post-consumer textiles, but companies still don't invest in the methods. As I investigated nylon polyamide waste, I got to know the properties of the material, so it became increasingly clear how well this production waste can be reused as a secondary raw material. Imagine a goldsmith working on a wedding ring. He doesn't throw away the falling dust and pieces, but melts them down again to make other objects from it. The same must be imagined with nylon stockings. In the examined hosiery factory, they generate approximately 1 to 2 tons of clean polyamide waste in a month during production. The raw polyamide costs around 90 euros, so in 1 month, approximately 1,035,000 euros worth of waste is thrown away, which could serve as a raw material for other products after extraction. Of course, these nylon stockings are production waste, which can be purchased cheaper for companies that produce plastic products. Next. The problem with textile fiber is that most of the textiles are mixed materials. Mixed materials ensure the desired quality of the material, but it does not consider the cycle of it. Mixed fibers are very hard to separate and it requires nanotechnology to do, which is quite expensive. This is why raw materials and 100% textiles are more sustainable and easier to reuse. One-component textiles is the preferred one and should be considered by any sustainable buyer. This nylon stocking waste is 100% nylon, 6, which cannot be burned, so it just fills our landfills. But it's extremely durable, UV-resistant, food-safe, and resists to household chemicals, so it's an amazing material. Next. So I created a camping set concept where the properties of the material can be applied nicely, as we need light and chewable, well-designed products during hiking and camping. The collection can be made by injection molding, and after the degradation of the product, it can be broken down into parts and remelted. With this method, we can extend the life of the material in up to 5 to 6 cycles. Next. Here we can also see that the waste is generated in 2 different stages of production. The first, when they sew up the seating part and also the toe part of the hosiery, and we also get defective products as well. So this is how the waste is considered. In the process, we are in the designing of the product and deciding of the concept, and next in the agenda is to create a prototype of from the concepts, and it is due to May, so it's very close and I'm very excited to see how it turns out. Next. Through this example, I would like to show companies operating in the textile industry that it is possible to reuse polymer fiber-based textiles, and with these steps, part of the responsibility is transferred to the manufacturers. By rethinking production processes and using extracted waste as secondary raw material, a new and more sustainable textile industry can be created, and the time has come. Next. Design of the future is not the same as design for the future. We need to think about this difference in terms of the production system as well, and that is responsible design. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Thank you. I think we can bring everyone on the table and start our discussion. I was interested in two kinds of ideas throughout the different presentations that we saw this afternoon. One was the multiplicity of scales, from very low to very high scales, whether we deal with it in a territorial sense or whether we deal it from, this change of scales, which me and is very different, and also the multiplication of the process that goes beyond circularity with multi-sectorial stream. So I would like to any of you who wants to comment on that, or to comment more generally speaking on what they listen to in these presentations. Annick, will I start with you?
Yes, I think there is maybe one thing we didn't mention is that we have all the tools, all the technology, all the know-hows, we have almost everything, but our minds are not yet in these new production schemes. We saw it very hardly in France because we did what Dieter showed, actually. We opened a factory, a microfactory in Roubaix, Atelier Agile. And the difficult part is not to do a microfactory, it's very easy and not so expensive, is to make people change, because they are used to give one order to one Chinese supplier, write it, and then work is finished. When they have to order every week 50 pieces or 100 pieces, they don't know how to do it, actually. So sometimes, the difficult part of all this is not where we think. It's not so much in the tech or in the money or in whatever. It's in the habits of existing people who do things a certain way for ages sometimes, and can't just figure out that they could do otherwise eventually.
Yeah, I fully agree. Anyone wants to add something on that?
I'd add to there's an interesting difference between what's happening in the US and in Europe. And in Europe, in the US, contract manufacturing is quite normal, and so that's where you can produce small batches. And yeah, there's a different, a slightly different mindset in how that actually works. But in Europe, I think it's as Annick said, that we are more used to simply heading to China, and that process has been made very easy, actually, to the point where we just don't know how to. We don't know otherwise, and that's something which we can see with the two case studies that we're looking at in the Fabrics project, where we have Rotterdam, where a lot of the heritage, the industrial heritage, has been lost, and as they're starting again, so they have to rethink how things actually work. And then Athens, where there is still some industrial heritage, which is very artisanal, which you can actually build on. So so we might, in a way, have to start totally rethinking how this process works, and then finding a way to cut out some of the middle steps, which have made the production process in the past? So easy, but actually so problematic.
I'm not quite sure if I got the question. Sorry if I jumped in a little bit later. I had it. But as far as I got it, it is about producing small series, small quantities. Or am I wrong?
It's about the multiplicity of scales, which was in fact developed through very small scale, like unique pieces from Ravonn to other scales, and also multiple sectors, crossing with multiple sectors.
Because the concept of the microfactory, and if you just start really from textiles, from printing on textiles, digital printing on textiles, and of course, this technology is very, very flexible. And if it is digitally fully connected, then it is technically very easy and very simple to make 50 centimeters or whatever else. Yeah? But it requests, of course, a digital connectivity, and this at the same time allows also very easy to scale up, to multiply the capacity. Of course, if you need a correct printer setup and things like this, you have to know in your network what is available. But technically, it is very, very easy to do it, and it is more or less the same. If we go to knitting, if we go knitting on a flatbed knitting, because we can also, let's say, derive from the CAD the CAM for the knitting machine and the fabric, the knitted fabric, maybe even designed for the final garment, can be made on a single piece level. But it requests, of course, the digital connectivity.
But do you think, or do you have the experience, Dieter, that when you were setting up microfactories with your clients, did you have the same feeling as Annick had, which was, that there was a lot to do on changing the habits for having just a systematic, long purchase of once a year purchase of 10,000 shirts compared to having more a regular updated weekly type of contract? Did you experience that as well or not?
Basically, yes. It needs a different mindset. You have to change some of your business model internally. You have to think fully digitally from the beginning. I think that's the most important thing. Of course, you have to know what might be what is physically feasible. If I have a garment, if it like this, and if the fabric looks like this, or behaves like this, or even sounds like this, But if you know this and you can put it into the CAD system, the design system, and then you should do all the things digitally. You can then change them even, but you have to start from the digital thinking at the end. And this is one of the changes, of course. And
that's
sorry.
No, that's true, because people who do garments, they figure out that doing garments can only be physical. And then when they train themselves in digital designing and digital pattern making, they figure out that they can do more than in the physical world. They can calculate their fabric use. They can do so much more in such short time that they are completely amazed. But you have to bring them into digital. They have to train themselves, actually. It cannot come by miracles suddenly.
I have a question for both of you. How would you enable this transition? Like, what is the way to break the bad habits and shift to a different kind of cycle?
Train. We started training very large companies in north of France, and they were extremely skeptical. They sent one person to be trained. And then this person came back and she said, okay, I'm going to do one dress only and compare physical and digital. And I'm going to ask prototypes to be sure, the both ways. And then she realized that both prototypes are perfect. And then why do a prototype? I don't need them anymore. And then this this big company sent like the whole team to be trained, and they switched completely to digital in a few months. So you just have to show things to people who don't know. And then the technicians are very happy because suddenly their level is going from here to there, and they are highly employable suddenly. So you just have to start sometimes with one person in a company to be trained and convinced that can do the job. But you have to find this first person who agrees to try and to come and train.
If I may add, or let's say even confirm what Annick Jehanne, you said, training is, I think, one of the keys for the change, for improving or accelerating the change. Yeah.
Well, it's not only it's training with the practice and the experience. It is not a traditional training like.
Maybe it is even more important, the training, because if I talk about some, let's say some creating digitally some automotive or some other household appliances. Okay, they have automotive has also some kind of fashion or emotion, yeah. But if I'm talking about garments, it is always some personal expression in there and some fashion aspect, and we always need the physical experience. Each person needs a physical experience. And from this point of view, it will be always a challenge to say, okay, if I have something physical, which I have on my skin and which I would really like, and then I go to the digital world, which does not really enable such to feel, to have the taste, and these things. So we will always have a gap in between here. And this is, let's say, also the challenge for the change. And so we need both dimensions. We need the digital. We have to connect also in the training and in the education for the designer, for example, that we have the physical and the digital things. And this is, we should not forget about this. It is not feasible to do it only digital.
I would like to raise the issue with Ravonn, who is working with this premium designers, and also to raise the issue with Sophie, who is 25 years. Ravonn, do you think your designers are familiar with digital? Do you think they prefer to have it doing it by hand? What is your experience on that?
Yeah, I come from a fashion industry level as well. I work with Tom Chani. She always uses hand methods. She likes to draw everything by hand, and we also make prototypes. But in general, our production is much more sustainable, I think, because we are on demand production. So we get the order in, we cut it, and the seamstresses sew it, and we don't have any products around. We just have what is ordered from us. So this is how we manage our production. But in general, I think in smaller and bigger case, the problem is with waste management and also with the textile waste in general, and especially in Hungary, to have the textile waste removed from your production it costs a lot of money. So to be sustainable and aware of your surroundings and your environment, it costs a lot of money. So for companies, I do think that we also have to consider profits with times with sustainability. So yeah, I do think we have to consider money and in times with companies.
Yeah, this is the limit, the constraints of having to switch from one habit system, which is linear and high volume, to a smaller type of. Ravonn, what is your feeling? Do your designers, please put your mic on. Put your mic on. Are your designers?
Okay, all my designs, of course, they are all made by old school. It means that it's totally handcrafted. So, it's not like the mass productions, because it's very couture, like one pieces, they make tailoring. So it's totally artisanal. But of course, for the moment, because my role with some young designer, I'm like curator. So for the moment, with Ravonn, for example, now he has the maturity to have the I don't like
We lost you.
So
yeah.
Sorry?
We lost you.
Okay.
We lost you.
Sorry. Yes, for the moment, yes. For example, because my role is like a curator with Ravonn, and now Ravonn, we are going to launch his collection. So it means to sell to the wholesalers. So the questions of the productions, we need to how to produce that. And of course, it's still the little series, and the atelier is in Paris, because but it depends, in fact, the size of the market. Because he just emerging brand, and if the size of market, the growth, I think that the critical point, we need to have the reflections to produce something with the industrialization logic, in fact, the process, But I think that we can combine the innovation technology with something very sustainable.
Yeah, true. This is what you said. Okay, can I have maybe one word of conclusion of each of you? A question you want to raise? Something you totally disagree with? On this production scenario, a round table. Sophie, I'm going to start with you. If you were to make a conclusion of what you've heard today, what would you say?
Like, I'm in the design sector, so when I'm designing like product, we also have to think of the production. So how the different parts of the product will come from the production. So in case of my project, I also have to design it sustainably. So we don't have much part of the production, and just keep in mind how you produce your product and how you manage all the way to degradation, from the start to degradation. Yeah.
Thank you. I am going with my screen. Annick, one last comment or issue or question.
I think that really should be a merge with creation to production to digitalization. I think nobody will be able to avoid, because Chinese are really doing this already. all of them, all designers. So we have to learn those tools. And there is as well a new trend in France, which is small factories become brands or launch brands, or brands by factories or launch factories like Petit Bateau, who is now giving his factory to whoever wants to produce there. Or reverse, Digitex, who has launched a 3D knitting factory in Saint-Malo, big one now. They have dozens of machines, are launching their own brands. So we can see that there is this kind of sort of merge, and which is very interesting, actually. I don't know if it will be successful or not, but that's interesting.
Dieter, last comment.
Yeah, I think two aspects. First of all, for small business and for new companies making small series, maybe hopefully following the digital textile microfactory concept, there's sufficient of space and creativity. It needs, of course, some money, but there's so many opportunities to do it, to make it, and also to go to market. This is one aspect. Second aspect is there's a still much closer knowledge connection between the, let's say, the designer on the one end, the fashion designer, and the people who make, let's say, the fabrics and the yarns even, yeah? So that all the participants know very well, okay, if I design like this and that, oops, this will have a big impact, maybe even back upstream to the filament making or whatever else. And there a lot of knowledge is helpful and necessary.
Thank you. Ravonn?
Well, thank you.
Last comment?
No, thank you. I know that Annick, I'm going to contact you because I think that my French couturier could have opportunity to work with you.
Okay.
And I think, yes, and my conclusion, the most important is emotions and creativity.
Adrian, you have the final word.
The final word will be, how do we convince Primark that this is all a great idea? Or otherwise...
We talked to them. They came to see us last week. So they are thinking of many things suddenly.
Then we should also speak, Annick. Yeah, how do we make these wonderful ideas go mainstream? That to me is that's a big challenge. How do we try to forget about, well, how do we shift from this sense of production anywhere to production which is closer and based on needs which are more linked to the environmental social context.
Yes. How do we ask them to forget about their systems, their processual systems, and their clock and their centimes on the margins at every step of the traditional production? Thank you very much indeed. It was a fascinating roundtable. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you very much. We will have a last one tomorrow. So if you want to attend, do not hesitate. It will be on YouTube and Herewear. And I wish you a very nice evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.